Welcome to Zen and the Art of Self-Publishing. It's the podcast where we slow down, get honest, and put the human back at the center of author life. I'm your host, Janet Margot, so come on in and let's talk. Welcome, Kristin Heintz from My Audio Rocks. Thanks for being here today. Kristin has a 25-year narration career. She started at Audible in New York, which I'm sure everyone's very interested in. She worked with Brilliance Audio and is now the co-founder of My Audio Rocks. And for those of you who do not know this killer company, they make it easy and affordable for self-published authors and independent consultants to record best-in-class audiobooks and podcasts, adding a powerful tool to your branding arsenal. They have something really unique. It's a one-stop shop that includes everything. It's a complete setup kit with professional equipment shipped to your door, expert narration direction from Kristin herself, and a team of audio engineers who handle all the technical details. I think that is such a huge differentiator. I can't say that word today. And it includes, they'll produce this according to Audible's notoriously complex requirements. So you focus on your voice and they're going to handle the rest. Welcome. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you. I'm so excited to do this.
So I invited you here because we had, of course, I'm part of your partner program. Mm-hmm. And we had a conversation and we were talking about your origin story. You trained as a singer, you got into musical theater, and then you landed your first ever narration job at Audible in New York. Hello, for the first one. That's pretty killer. What was that like?
It was crazy. It was literally one of those things that annoying to other people who want to get into narration. It literally landed in my lap. I don't even know if it's possible now, but back then, a friend of a friend, literally, we were out to lunch, my best friend and someone she knew from a former company she worked at. We're all sitting at lunch together. Friend, her name's Pam. She said to me, you're an actor? And I was like, yeah. She said, have you ever done narration? And I was like, well, I've done some mic work. I have a commercial demo. I've done a few little things like that. And she was like, okay, have you ever wanted to do narration? I was like, absolutely. Would you like to get an Audible audition? Yes, please.
That's all.
Yes. That's it. And so literally what I did is I went to the studio in New York and I hired someone because I knew that this was a big deal. Yeah. I hired someone to help me learn, because narration is different than other types of voiceover.
Okay.
How to be a narrator, and specifically on these three. They gave me 3 pieces. Like it was like a biography, like an older literary kind of blurb. And then I think a dialogue, because dialogue's a whole thing. And this coach worked with me and I went in and they hired me on the spot, which was awesome. And yeah, that was my first gig. Crazy. It was super unexpected and super like, oh my gosh, I could make money as an actor. Like I can maybe do this. Yeah, it was nuts.
But then you left New York and moved to the Midwest and wound up working with Brilliance.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about the difference between Brilliance Audio and Audible, if you can, and how that shaped your understanding of great audiobook sound.
Yeah. Brilliance is a sister company to Audible. I think Audible purchased them at some point. Old school, I don't know what they're doing now, but it was literally a warehouse where they would make CDs for audiobooks, right? Back in the day, right?
Yeah.
And so when I called them and I asked to speak with like their casting person or whoever it was, I don't remember what his title was. And I got to this guy and he was like, I thought, as having worked at Audible for like 3 years at that point, that I would just be a shoo-in, right? Like they're going to go, yes, you're part of us now. But no, it wasn't that way. And good for them. Right?
Yeah.
They literally said, well, let us hear some of your stuff. So I sent them some clips and then they said, okay, we want you to come in. We do have a book we want you to do, but you're going to be working with a director for the whole first book.
And was that your first time?
So excited. Yes. To be working with a director. Yeah. At Audible, it is at my level, it was very turn and burn. right? Like
Oh, okay.
it was me and an engineer.
That's so Amazon. Yeah.
I never ever got anyone giving me feedback there. I never
Oh,
had
wow.
anyone, and the only thing they had ever heard was me doing the audition.
Right, right.
So I kind of had to figure it out on my own, right? And the engineers would give me like a little bit of like, oh, well, you're too close to the mic, or you're too far from the mic, or don't do this, or, whatever. But at Brilliance, literally, like the first thing the director said to me, he's like, let's do a quick warm up. And he had me read, and he goes, okay, I need you to read this like you're reading it for the first time. Like you don't already know what's going to happen. And I went, yeah, I do need to read it like that. Right? It's a subtle difference, but it's a difference.
I
It
can't
is
imagine that.
such.
How is it a difference? And
So
why are you supposed to be reading it like it's the first time? I'm not sure I'm following that. It's interesting.
yeah. So for instance, if I were to say, I'm looking for anything that I could say, all I have is notes on my desk. Here, let me see. Okay, this is actually a book I did narrate for
Okay.
someone. So it's going to be subtle because it is a subtle difference, right?
Mhm.
So if I were to say something like at board, the sentence is, at boarding school, I wrote James a letter. I felt safe and free in a place where my parents couldn't censor my mail. That's just reading it, right? That's a read.
Yeah.
Not doing anything but reading it. If I were narrating it without thinking about reading it for the first time, it would be, at boarding school, I wrote James a letter. I felt safe and free in a place where my parents couldn't censor my mail. If I think about it like I don't know what's going to happen, it becomes this. At boarding school, I wrote James a letter. I felt safe and free and in a place where my parents couldn't censor my mail. Do you see the difference?
I definitely see the difference.
Yeah.
I definitely see the difference. And it's super interesting because I do hear a lot of narration doing the first version,
Absolutely.
the reading version.
Absolutely.
But it's so much more of an emotional connection with the
That's
second.
right. Because you're in the story.
Yeah.
Instead of observing the story, right? That's what makes a good narrator great, in my opinion. And there are a whole bunch of other little tricks like that. Little things that you don't think of that I learned from this director in one session.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
But also you learned it from this director because you had trained
as an actor.
Right. As an actor. So you were good at taking that in.
Sure. I love direction. Give me all the direction. And most actors do. Most actors want help. They want direction. They want an outside voice.
Yeah.
To help them understand. It is a different adjustment when working with narrators, but I know we'll probably get it, or with authors who are narrating, but we'll get into that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So during your time for Brilliance and or Audible, I'm not sure which, you've narrated for some really established authors.
Mm-hmm.
What were those experiences like? And I know you can't mention names, so I'm really bummed about that. But
I mean, listen, you can find anything I've read pretty much. I do have a few books I used a pseudonym for, but
right.
Pretty much you can, a handful of books. Pretty much you can find anything I wrote on Amazon or read on Amazon. Sometimes I go back to the early stuff and I'm like, oh, I wasn't as good then. However, that's just the life of an actor, right?
Right.
Those experiences were good. The thing that always surprises people is that you typically don't have any interaction with the author themselves.
Do you have to do, this may be a stupid question.
No, not at all.
But do you ever have to give them a sample first, or are they just taking your original samples, but then?
So it depends on the author. On the author. I don't remember ever auditioning for something while I was at Brilliance. I think Brilliance just told people what we were doing.
Interesting.
This person, we have somebody who's going to do your book kind of thing.
Yeah.
At Brilliance, it happens quite often. They would call and say, hey, we have somebody, you're the right voice type. Can you do a quick audition? And here's the sides are what actors read, right? So
and here's actually part of what the script or whatever, what the book will be. So it's not like a random sample.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say though, That was less than 50%, maybe less than 40% of the time. Usually most authors with a publishing company like that will say, I trust you, pick who you think is best. However, we're also, at My Audio, when we start casting, we're open to either as well. I am happy to help you. I am happy to pick someone for you. We're also happy to do a casting where we send you like 3 people, right?
Awesome.
Yeah. So we do both as well. One of the things I love about working with well-established authors is there's one particular author, and she would not care at all if I said her name. Her name's Julie Moffett. She has a series of mysteries, but they're always humorous. They're like thriller mystery, but with humor, right? Very sort of the woman forward in terms of who the they almost feel like YA a little bit, but they're adorable. I just read the 17th in that series. So I've been with Julie since she started that series. She has done other series. She's done spin-offs from the Lexi Carmichael series, which is what I've done. But I'm still reading her books, right? And I get excited because I'm like, what is going to happen to Lexi? Like, what's happening this time? What is the next installment? And there was one book that I wasn't able to do. I had this massive jaw surgery and I wasn't able to,
for your career. Oh my God.
It was 2 years I couldn't work, right? Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was a whole thing. Anyway, I wasn't able to work for about 2 years with this whole, I had to have like 3 surgeries total and blah, blah, blah. She had to find someone else to do the book because the book was coming out. She needed the audiobook. Her fans were not happy. They're like, we're sure she's lovely. She's not Lexi.
Right. You
Kristin is Lexi, you know? So, and they know me. Like when my mom died, her fans sent me this like wind chime that they all went in together.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they're lovely people. So the fans are fun too. Yeah. Yeah.
So what made you want to stop being just a narrator? I shouldn't say just a narrator because this isn't a just thing. But what made you decide to transition into building something for other authors?
I would say, well, listen, I'll give you kind of the story as it were. I was working at My VA Rocks, which is a virtual assistant company. My husband and I had moved to California and then we came back to the Midwest again. And audiobooks has been the industry's changed a little. It is.
Over what time frame are we talking about now?
COVID.
Okay.
So we got here after COVID and a couple of years past COVID. And I started working at this virtual assistant company. He was going to go back to school for mathematics and get his master's. And so I had ideas, and Ashley Quinto Powell, who is the founder of My VA Rocks.
She's awesome.
She's amazing. She is very open to ideas. Like I came to her at one point and I was like, what if I really love doing travel for people. And what I mean by that is like bespoke travel. Like if you and a group of friends wanted to go somewhere and I plan the whole thing for you, you just give me your parameters, right?
Oh, cool. Yeah.
I love doing that kind of thing. I do it for us and I like have a binder when we go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's not a binder of you have to do this. It's here are your choices.
Yeah.
Right. And she was like, you know what? Me and some girlfriends are going to Turkey. Let's start with that. I'm going to give you a budget. Let's see how it goes. It went great. They loved it. I did a bunch of research for them. So she's always open to those kinds of ideas. Now, Shiraz Dada, who is my co-director, he and Sarah, who's our CEO, Sarah Hardy, and Ashley were all having conversations, the 3 of them, about different things like podcasting and I don't know if they'd really talked audiobooks, but they were having these sort of like, is there something we should be doing in that world? I heard somewhere that they were having these conversations and I stuck my big fat nose in the middle and said, I don't know if you guys know this, but I've been a narrator for this many years.
Oh, wow.
And here is my demo of narration and I would love to talk. And out of that, My Audio Rocks was born. We just happened to have all the right people in place at the time. So it sort of grew out of that. And I am still narrating. Occasionally one of our authors will be like, well, will you do my book? And I'm like,
Yeah.
sure. I love it.
Right.
I love doing, and I do a lot of the like little things that we need done on the My Audio side and the My VA side. But I have found this happens with actors too. There comes a time when you're like, I've probably done all the things I can do as an actor on a stage or as an actor, as a narrator. I've probably hit the highs I'm going to hit. I've probably hit the lows I'm going to hit at this point. Maybe I should direct. And then I knew I could direct.
Yeah.
I wasn't worried about that at all. And I love it. I absolutely love it. And now I'm doing sales, narration, and operations for my audio. So took off a big chunk, and Shiraz handles the marketing and technology side. So we're like kind of a perfect fit, but it just felt like the right time. And that I had all this knowledge that like when I was at Amazon, nobody was giving me. And I think authors should start out with this, or narrators should start out with this kind of help, or authors should get the help they need to read the books they want to read that they've written for themselves, right?
So you've built the case for, or you're building the case for narrating your own book.
Yeah.
Now, when we look at, obviously something like that makes sense. It's a strong consideration, or should be a strong consideration for many self-published authors.
Mm-hmm.
The big publishers often say no to author narration, especially for memoirs, which I think is particularly interesting. What's your take on that?
I used to be one of those people. I used to be no, only a narrator should do your book. Wisdom, getting older, realizing that there are many ways to tell a story and they don't have to be perfect, whatever that means.
Especially though in the memoir space. And that's why I always think it's very interesting that big publishers have often said no to self-narration for memoir, because it's like, well, that especially, I would think that readers or listeners would give a little bit more leeway to the professionalism. I don't know if that's the right thing to say.
If they know it's you. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and if you're a name, if you're Michelle Obama or whoever, of course you're going to get to narrate your own book. Right?
Yeah.
But if you are, a person who's had an experience that you think could make a compelling story, and you write that book, which is amazing, you write a book and you want to tell that story yourself, you're most often told by not just the publishers, but also anybody that does audiobooks, no, one of our narrators should do it. And I just don't believe that anymore. I think the change happened kind of gradually. And then I had to think about it. And I was like, that's crap. I can teach somebody to narrate. And as I've said many, 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 many times, I can't teach a narrator to have your experiences, right? I can never teach them
that statement.
Yeah, I can never teach them what it felt like to lose your husband in a car accident. And if you're telling that story, yeah.
I know you mentioned when on our other previous business call that got into a lot of this detail, because it's such a fascinating space for me. You had worked with a memoir author who got super emotional in the booth. Can you share that story?
Yeah, well, she started out asking me. It's a beautiful, beautiful story. Her name's Peggy DeLong. She did her audiobook with us. She is also a psychiatrist. I'm not sure. I don't remember, but she's one of those things. And she wrote this book. So the premise of the book is essentially she is young and madly in love. And then they wake up one day and they find a lump on her almost husband. They were engaged, in one of his lymph nodes. I think it was here or under the arm or something. And it's leukemia, right? And he ends up passing. And then a week or two later, her father ends up passing. So her and her mother are essentially widows at the same time, dealing with the same thing. Yeah. 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 So it's intense. It's an intense story. And she said to me, what happens if I start to cry while I'm reading? And I said, Peggy, if you are crying but can still read, keep reading. If you're crying so much that you need to take a break, then we'll do that. If we can't understand you, that
Yeah.
happens too, right?
Yeah.
But if you feel emotion coming through your voice and you're telling a part of the story that makes you emotional and you can keep reading because people will just, I mean, it gives me goosebumps thinking about listening to that for the first time, you know? Like if you're sitting there and you're in her story, you're listening to her story and you hear her choke up, you know?
That's so interesting because it's such an immersive experience as opposed to like flat somebody's reading to you like we were talking about before.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. And Peggy's book is all weirdly about hope and about, wonderful. She's a lovely, centered, amazing person who I just adore. And the fact that she wrote this book, and one of the things I love, I've had a couple of authors tell me this, three authors have said this to us about their own personal stories, that listening to it, not necessarily the reading, sometimes the reading, but listening to it afterwards, because we have them listen to it so they can find any problems.
Yeah.
Was so emotional for them, even though they know the story and wrote it. But hearing it, there's something in our lizard brains about, I mean, there were millions of years before we could write things, we were, I don't know if it's millions, so nobody correct me on that. But there were a lot of years.
A lot of time.
A lot of time in which all we were doing was verbal storytelling.
Yeah.
And I have said for a long time that I think storytelling is in us as people.
Yeah, it is.
And I think there's something in our lizard brain that likes to hear stories, not just, I love reading stories too, but hearing stories. All three of these women, very different stories, were like, it was like I had never heard my own story. It was so different. And I'm like, it's a very different medium. And I don't think people understand. Like they think, oh, I'm going to write a book and then I'll also do an audiobook because that's what you do. It is different. It comes across different.
I want to make a distinction here.
Sure.
Because in Peggy's, or not just Peggy's, but these people who are reading their own stories, that was super profound. Now I have, my computer read out loud what I've written. That's different. That's a different experience than you're talking about. It's your story in your voice.
Yeah.
Is what
That's right. Telling the story in your voice. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So what genres, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
What genres do you think are the best fit for author narration versus hiring a pro?
I do sort of believe fiction should maybe be done by a pro. And we have a roster that we can draw from. Because I don't think this is just my experience. I would be happy for someone to prove me wrong. Mm-hmm. I think that most authors who write fiction aren't really interested in their own voice being heard. They never thought of it as in, I would do my own audiobook.
So they'd be sort of required to get into acting mode.
Right. And they would have to, it's not their own story necessarily. Sure. It's a story they created. Like I have an author right now that just we're getting ready to do an audiobook with. And he said, I said, do you want to read your story? And he was like, oh no, like I would never, I'm not even remotely interested in that.
I think I went to acting school, so I might not be the average writer, but I'd be very interested in, there's some stories that I'd be very interested in writing that are fictional, but I would hate to do the dialogue.
Yeah.
And so I wouldn't even consider it. Like it's one thing to be reading paragraphs of inner thought or whatever. But dialogue, no, I'm not going to do various people.
It's hard for narrators. Dialogue's hard. Yeah, I can see that.
So even for professional narrators, it's a challenge. Is that what you're saying?
Dialogue is always the challenging part for me. Okay. And I've been doing it forever. Now, I can do it with no problem, but it is always, if I'm going to make a mistake, that's where I'm going to make a mistake.
Isn't
right?
that like, I would imagine like a dialogue heavy book.
Oh yeah.
You'd
I've
have
done
to
I've
prep
done them.
big time to get
My favorite is when they're
to,
two different accents.
yeah, forget it. I wouldn't go anywhere near that.
That happens a lot in Julie's books. It's two different people talking in two different accents. So you have three voices you're using. You have the person that is saying she said in the blah blah blah. You have the narrator. You
Yeah.
have then the two different people that have two different accents.
So as a self-published author, just going to this use case, because that's who our audience primarily is, as a self-published author, I would say, hey, this isn't going to be for me because I have a dialogue, but why don't I just use AI? What's your thought on that, Kristin?
I do have strong opinions.
I know.
Here's what I'm going to say. If I can't teach a narrator how to have your experiences, I for sure can't teach AI to storytell like a human, and no one has gotten there yet.
Yeah, it can be pretty drone-like.
Very drone-like.
Flat, sort of.
Well, and what happens is you don't get things like, here, I'm going to pull from the book again. I'll just find anything. So things like, okay, so these are little things that I would do in a book. So the line here is, the guys went to play basketball, but I stayed behind with Roberta. Very simple sentence, right? In AI, you would get, the guys went to play basketball, but I stayed behind with Roberta, right? That would be AI, right? If I was reading that, I would do something like, the guys went to play basketball, but I stayed behind with Roberta. You know what I mean? Like, you can give little pauses or little phrases or little, like I could say, I don't remember the context of that line, but if she was irritated with the guys playing basketball, AI isn't going to get that. But if she said, the guys went to play basketball, right? AI is not going to do that.
It's a little bit more lyrical. That's how I hear it. It's
yeah. I can tease out individual emotions in every sentence.
Yeah.
AI is going
to give
every
part of every sentence too.
That's right. That's right. AI is just going to give you a read, right? AI is just going to give you a read. And to me, I
thought you were actually going to say AI was going to screw up the name Roberta. Because sometimes you'll hear it say something like Robert A. Like, you know what I mean?
It might.
Things like that. It might. And you guys My Audio Rocks is 100% no AI.
No AI.
Even though we're in a world where AI in general, and I guess this applies to AI audio, is getting better pretty fast, but you're continuing to hold that line.
Well, what I am seeing, let me make a couple of things clear. We use no voice AI ever. We don't put you through AI. We don't clean up with AI. We don't do any of that.
Okay.
But there is AI driven technology that we use within the scope of the company. Do you know what I mean? Like, there might be a process we use or whatever.
So like automation or whatever. Yeah.
Correct. I cannot say that we don't use AI. I can say we don't use AI generated audio.
Yeah.
Right. At all.
That's a good distinction.
Yeah.
It's an important distinction. I assumed that, but yeah.
Yeah. I just want to make that super clear.
That's important. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I think AI can be great. There are lots of things that it can be used for that are amazing. I still continue to hear people say, I can tell the difference and I want to hear real voices. When I start listening to an AI book, I will listen and I think, wow, for AI, that's pretty good. Like, that's good. And then I keep listening and it continues to sound the same. And I could not do that for 6 hours.
It also kicks you out of the story.
Right.
AI, I mean, it really, like, I easily space out, but that will make me space out. And then when, not just the spacing out part, if I do hear something like the example of Robert A. instead of Roberta, or something silly like that, a gross mispronunciation, that will really kick me out. And then I'll just be thinking about the AI and you know what I mean? I'll be like going off on a tangent. It definitely ruins the story for me. But I thought it was funny. You were telling me how you were recently auditioning narrators and somebody gave you an AI generated clip for the.
Listen, I check with Shiraz on anything related to audio because I say he has eagle ears, which doesn't even make sense because it's eagle eyes, but he has the ability to hear
Isn't
things.
the actual term in the industry, he has big ears?
Oh, I
Isn't that
haven't
what they
heard
say?
that one.
Oh,
I don't
really?
know.
Oh, I had a producer friend who had a recording studio, and he used to say that about people.
Yeah,
They have big ears.
It makes me laugh to say eagle ears because that's not a correct, you know.
I know.
It's like a malapropism.
It makes sense to me though when you said that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a malapropism. But he can hear things that I don't even understand how he hears them.
Yeah.
Like I just it freaks me out, frankly. Sometimes he'll be like, oh no, they're in this kind of room using that kind of mic, and we specifically told them to do this and this and this.
That's
and
wild.
I'm like, what?
That's an expert. That's a pro.
What?
That's a true pro.
What are you listening to? Anyway, this person sent us AI, and I was like, as soon as I heard it, I was like, what is that? And this was just on their intro clip. So we set up a system so that when people are applying for the job, they have to send us just an intro clip. A lot of the reason we did that was to not have robots applying for this job.
Yeah.
So, and it worked. So they send like a 1-minute intro clip just saying like who they are, what kind of setup they have in their house, that kind of thing. And I was like, what's happening here? Is that no? I was like, no, this is not AI. So I sent it to Shiraz. He's like, yeah, I don't know what she did, but she put her voice through this AI thing, right? And it sounded like a robot lady. He found her website, and there were some YouTube clips on her website. He listened to the YouTube clip. He's like, she sounds so like normal and like normal inflections in her voice, but decided it would be better to try to send us like that. Maybe we wouldn't know.
That seems almost like, well, it seems lazy or like an absurd joke. Like, were they serious when they said that?
I guess I should have probably called her out, but I didn't. I probably should have sent her a reply that said, we would have loved to have considered you, but it's clear that this is AI either generated or modified. So I'm sorry, we don't do that. And it says that in our application.
Right. You know. So let's say I'm interested in self-narrating because I actually am. Walk us through what happens from when I sign up.
Okay.
What happens?
So first thing is there's a discovery call with me and you say, yes, I want to do this. Next thing that happens is you get a contract and an invoice for the first half of the book.
Do you ever turn anybody down on your discovery calls? Do you ever find that somebody actually wouldn't be a good fit during that call to narrate their own book?
Not yet.
Okay. Just wondering.
Yeah. I cannot say that there have not been a person who we stopped working with.
Okay.
That has happened, but that was a very different situation.
Okay. So someone calls you, you have the discovery call.
We have the discovery call. You get it. The next step is contract and invoice. Invoicing can go a couple of ways. Typically we do half up front, half at the end. Once it's all done. We do, if somebody's like, I need to split this up into more payments, we're like, we can use Klarna. So they can do Klarna payments. And with Klarna, you can set it up however you want. You go in and choose how many. So it's, you know, your financing goes up the longer it is. But if you just need like 5 payments to be able to pay it off, it's a smaller financing or what have you. So we do have that option for anybody that needed it, but mostly we do 50 and 50. The next thing that happens is after all that's done, we do what we call a readiness call. You, myself, and our project manager would all get together and we would let you know the things we need from you. We need the most updated manuscript that you have. We need the cover of the book, high resolution cover of the book. We need, I'm trying to think of what the other things are. We have a whole list of things. Oh, you have to sign up for Authors Republic, which I'll tell you about in a minute. And that's where you get your royalties from the audiobook. And then after that call, we have an internal meeting just to make sure we're all on the same page. And then we do what we call the kickoff call. So you get to meet the whole team. If you have decided to use a narrator, you would meet your narrator then, and there would have been an audition process. If you're doing it yourself, you just meet the team. right? And we say, okay, this is what our scheduling looks like. In order to do those narration sessions, we're going to need at least 2 a week for like 2 to 3 hours. What works for you? We also, it's very important to us because this has kind of been a problem a couple of times. We need to find a chunk of time to do your book when you're not going to go on vacation, right? So if the book's going to take 6 weeks for us to do together, it needs to be 6 weeks where you're not going to leave for a week.
Does it take that long?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it can. We can do it in a month if somebody
When you say do it in a month, though, what do you mean? The recording or all the production?
So I'll get there. So what happens is no, you're fine. What happens next is we set up those sessions with me. You do 3 sessions with me of narration training. And if you do your homework and you work really hard and you'll go about 100 times, wow, this is harder than I thought it would be. It is. Narration is not just sitting down and reading a book. It can be if that's all you want, but most people want more than that, right? So after that, you will have gotten our what has been someone recently called the monster box, which I loved. Ashley calls it the Rockaburton because she says it looks like a Halliburton case. So she calls it the Rockaburton. Shows up at your home. We walk you through how to put everything together. So you get to do this at your house. Then we do the first session. I'm there for the first session. Shiraz is there or whoever your engineer is, but it's usually Shiraz doing recording. And we work through tech at the first. And then we just start very slowly working through whether it's a preface or a first chapter or whatever it is. And I am live directing you through that. The reason we do that is so that I can see if there's any new bad habits that are starting or help you remember the things that you've already learned, but you're nervous or you feel this feels a little weird or I need to get used to this, what have you. And Shiraz can hear me directing you. So he knows what to keep track of, right? If you're a person that for whom it works, if I say, I need 20% more energy, he'll know that during the sessions to say that to you, right?
Okay, yeah.
And then from then on out, it's you and Shiraz. We try to do about 2 to 3 hours at a time, no more than that, because most people who don't narrate on a regular basis don't have the vocal ability to do that without starting to compromise the sound, because you'll start getting like tired and start getting,
Is 2 to
this
3
kind of thing.
hours session time or actual recording time?
It's
you know what I mean?
It's session time.
Okay.
Yeah. And while you're in those recording sessions, there's another engineer that is already working on pickups, right? So pickups are when you made a mistake.
This is incredible support.
Yeah.
This is really incredible support. Wow.
So they're working on pickups. So Shiraz may start a session saying, hey, we've got a couple of pickups from last session. Let's do those first. You do those pickups. And ideally, by the time we are done with all of your recording sessions, almost all of the pickups are done, right?
Wow. Yeah.
Then you go and we give you 5 business days to listen, and we give you some real specific things to listen for. One of the things you said early is absolutely true. We don't want things that take you out of the story. But we also don't want you to get too in the weeds of, I don't like the way my voice sounds there. If we think it sounds fine, you need to trust us.
Let it go. Yeah.
Because there's never been anything I've ever done that I thought, oh, I don't like how my voice sounds there.
Right.
So you can't go by that, right?
Right.
So that said, the next part of that is you are done with the book. You give us a couple of things. Maybe you said a couple of words wrong, or you hear something, or you need to rephrase a thing, whatever it is. You do those pickups. You give us the thumbs up. We send you the second invoice. You pay the second invoice. You ship off the box. And at the same time, we are putting your book up on Authors Republic, getting all the metadata set up. The ISBN is in there, all of that. We take care of all of that. And your book from Authors Republic disseminates everywhere. It goes to Amazon. It goes to Barnes and Noble. It goes to libraries. Awesome. It goes to some little site in Spain you've never heard of. It goes everywhere, right? It takes about 2 weeks to show up on Amazon typically, because people can get a little antsy about that.
Yeah.
And then we turn Authors Republic back over to you, and that's where you get royalties for your book.
So what do self-published authors get wrong about audio? Like, I know a lot of them come to you after a bad experience. Like they paid a friend of a friend who was an engineer or recorded in a music studio. That's one that I hear a lot. What happens?
That question kind of answers itself. So, as we say all the time over here, not all engineers are audiobook engineers. What happens is audiobook engineers are people who fully understand what engineering is in audiobook and how that you have to make a single voice sound good, and it's difficult, rather than making music in a room where there's a bunch of people. That's not as difficult to do, to make that sound good, right? And clean. Making one single voice in a room sound good is a lot more difficult because nothing can conceal the bad if there's bad quality.
Yeah.
If there's something wrong.
You're not going to turn up the bass.
That's right. That's right. So audiobooks require like specific, the specific guidelines you talked about for distribution. Yeah. They're very specific. It goes from file type to how quiet it can be. It can't be too quiet, can't be too loud. Also, you need someone that can catch every little S you miss, every little, and our engineers are really honed into that. Our audiobook engineers, they know how to do that. They do a great job at it. Nothing gets past them, which amazes me. So when somebody has their friend do it, who isn't an audiobook engineer, they're going to miss a lot of things. And then the quality isn't good because it was probably done in a room that is used for musicians, right?
Is that bigger? Like
it's bigger. It's not the right mic. It doesn't focus your sound. Okay. There's a thing called a sound floor, right? Mm-hmm. And that is like, they do it in dBs. So your sound floor is super important. Like my booth downstairs is like a -60 when nobody's in it and it's just my mic, right? In those rooms, it's not, the sound floor is completely different, right? So those people have come to us and been like, can you listen to this and tell me what I can do about it? And we're always like, well, yes, we're going to charge you.
So you can do some fixes sometimes post-production.
Sometimes, but not a lot.
Depends.
The big question is whether or not we can make it, when it's recorded in those ways, if we can make it compliant, that's often the problem.
Yeah.
And oftentimes we end up having to tell them, if you want this compliant, it needs to be a re-record. Yeah. Yeah. So you just lost $300 paying your buddy,
Right.
Yeah.
So if a self-published author is on the fence about doing an audiobook, what's your one piece of advice?
What have you got to lose? I know that's not advice, it's a question, but my advice is just what I was saying earlier. It's not a book. Audiobook is its own format where people are affected differently, not better, differently than when they read a book. I get very affected by books. I get affected differently by audiobooks, especially things like memoirs or personal stories or self-help stuff, any of that kind of stuff. It hits different when they hear someone telling you the thing.
This has been such a great conversation. Where can people find you and learn more about My Audio Rocks?
So My Audio Rocks, we are literally at myaudio, my.audio.rocks, ROCKS.
Okay.
That's our website. So they can go
Your
there.
Podcast too, though, right?
Podcasting too. Our podcasting is also amazing. I think for people that want to become experts in their field, what you need is an audiobook and a podcast, right? Because if you're an entrepreneur, if you are a coach, if you are in a leadership space and you've written a book, do an audiobook and then do a podcast about the book as well, right? You want to be seen as the expert. This helps establish you as an expert. So does this, right? Yeah.
So nonfiction authors, listen up to that. So I do have a partnership rate for any listeners. You can go to my website where we have the show notes. Excuse me. Actually, I have the show notes on YouTube as well, but on my website, Zen and the Art of Self-Publishing, you can find the partner rate also on Book Geeks Media for those of you who are in my course or clients. But also, Kristin, what about the strategic partnership? If anybody has a list of clients or their own thing out there?
Yeah, coaches, like book coaches. I mean, like if you work with authors in any way and those authors ask you about audiobooks, we would love to partner with you. We give, we like to make it mutually beneficial. Yep. So there is a profit sharing on that for any of your authors that close deals. We also have some packages that are specific just to partners and, ghostwriters, copy editors, anybody in that kind of space, anybody who, like I said, works with authors in any way. It could even be marketing people that don't know, like you don't have an audiobook. We don't know where to get an audiobook, because I think a lot of people don't know where to get an audiobook. And what we are, if nothing else, is high touch. And we want you to have the quality product that you want at the end.
I love that. I'm going to be booking a discovery call soon, I think. Kristin, thank you so much for your time today. It's been such a fascinating conversation and super helpful too to us all.
Thank you so much.
I'll talk to you soon.
All right, bye.
Well, that's our show. Find resources and more at zenandtheartofselfpublishing.com. I'm Janet, and I'll see you next time. Until then, take a deep breath, trust your work, and keep writing.